Welcome to this collaborative Baja 4 worship service. Whenever you are joining us and wherever you are joining us from, I invite you to bring your whole self here, now. As Unitarian Universalists, we love beyond belief and find inspiration from a wide array of spiritual, religious, and secular sources. We represent 4 congregations who worship together as one because we know we are stronger together. And next week will be different. Starting on September 12th, on 2nd and 4th Sundays, the Baja 4 congregations will begin to have their own separate worship services. Each of our congregations is planning something slightly different for their services, so be sure to be in touch with your staff or lay leaders if you have any questions about how you might spend your Sunday morning next week. For now, know that this shift is being made intentionally. The band is not breaking up. Whether that is something you have been hoping for or dreading, the Baja 4 is not breaking up. We are entering a new stage of collaboration. Through our work with our consultant, Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner, we are broadening our collaboration to include religious education, governance, music, in addition to worship. We are moving slowly and intentionally. And this is why our collaborative pre-recorded worship services will continue on 1st, 3rd, and the occasional 5th Sunday for the time being. To carry us forward together in this time of transition, we are introducing new chalice lighting words today. These are words we will share in our upcoming collaborative worship services and words we can use when we gather in any way for workshops, religious education, meetings, picnics, and more. Listen to these new chalice lighting words. There is a time for you to join in the words if you are willing and able.
I bring sand from Sierra Vista, which is the home of Sky Island Unitarian Universalist Church.
May we be grounded by this earth.
We bring air from the Catalina Mountains, which stand tall over the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson.
May we be enlivened by this air.
I bring water from the Santa Cruz River, which nourishes the land and all its creatures around Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation.
May we be nourished by this water.
I bring fire, source of all creation. From Borderlands Unitarian Universalist, symbolizing the hot sun of our Sonoran Desert.
May we be inspired by this fire.
From this land, this air, these waters, this fire, we know that we are part of a great interdependent web of creation which holds us all. As Unitarian Universalists, we join together as the Baja 4 to acknowledge our interdependence with one another and with all of the earth.
We gather as the Baja 4. We are stronger together.
Each week, we acknowledge that this land was stolen from indigenous peoples. In what is now called Southern Arizona, the displacement, genocide, and theft of land occurred in successive waves of colonization by Spain, Mexico, and the United States. This colonization is still happening in our communities and at our border wall. The Chiricahua Apache, Pasquayaqui, O'odham, and Opata peoples are the indigenous ancestors of this land and are still our neighbors today. We name this truth each week as part of our work to unlearn, speak truth, and move ourselves and our communities with and towards acts of individual and collective right, relationship, and decolonization.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Hi friends, today's story is called All Are Welcome by Alexandra Penfold and illustrated by Suzanne Kaufman. The story is about welcome at school, but as we read it, I invite you to think about welcome in your life, in other places in your life, and what your role is in welcoming others. All are welcome. Pencils sharpened in their case, bells are ringing, let's make haste. School's beginning, dreams to chase, all are welcome here. No matter how you start your day, what you wear when you play, or if you come from far away, all are welcome here. In our classroom, safe and sound, fears are lost and hope is found. Raise your hand, we'll go around. All are welcome here. Gather now, let's all take part. We'll play music, we'll make art. We'll share stories from the heart. All are welcome here. Time for lunch, what a spread, a dozen different kinds of bread. Pass it round till everyone's fed. All are welcome here. Open doors, rush outside. We will swing, we will slide. We will have fun side by side. All are welcome here. We're part of a community. Our strength is our diversity, a shelter from adversity. All are welcome here. We will learn from each other. Special talents we'll uncover. There's a big world to discover. All are welcome here. We learn so much to do, and when the busy day is through, can't wait to come back, start anew. All are welcome here. Head for home to get some rest and greet tomorrow ready and fresh. Our time together is the best. All are welcome here. You have a place here. You have a space here. All are welcome here.
We have cleared off the table, leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day.
As the moon sets its sail to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, well, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody that you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live for yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone.
Some girls grow up strong and bold.
Some boys are quiet and kind.
Some race on ahead, some follow behind.
Some grow in their own space and time.
Some women love women.
Some men love men. Some raise children and some never do. You can dream all the day, never reach the end of everything possible for you.
Don't be rattled by names, by taunts or games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you.
You can be anybody that you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live for yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone. Oh, the love you leave
prayer for a bigger dream. Sometimes you are forced by rising water out of the car on the road you were traveling on. And sometimes you find yourself sitting beneath a fir tree, soaked. Sometimes the floodplain is not the place that you pass through, but the place you stay a while. What is worth doing on a floodplain? We live here together in a gap between what was and what might be, and gaps are places to pray in, ponder in, wonder in, witness in, stay in. Let us stay here together. I pray that I do not try to rebuild the car. I pray that I do not build stilts on my house such that the next time the water goes right on beneath me and I remain unimpacted. I pray that I do not invest in stocks for rafting technologies such that I might float on by while others sink, such that I might float on while the debris of other people's lives drift and sink beneath me like decaying reefs and once inhabited shells on an overheated planet. I pray that I live impacted by this world. I pray for the wisdom of every grand interruption to every "that's the way it is." I say thank you for reimagined trajectories. I say thank you for the sinking of old road maps to "we've already been there" places. I say thank you for destinations emergent. I say thank you for destinations becoming. I say thank you for travel reimagined. If you pray for anything, pray for descendants, not transcendence. Pray to descend into the here and now, the only thing that is or was. Pray that your descendants makes you humble. Pray for foolishness and creativity, patience and playfulness and rest. Pray that you do not move too quickly. Pray that you fix nothing. Pray that you witness all. Pray that you do not take your next step until you know you have all arrived safely. Pray that you have all told the story, and pray that you do not move until you have made room for something different than your plans. Let us pray that we sit long enough, listening long enough, becoming long enough, gathering enough of us, that we make room for a dream bigger than just a new car.
Hello, Baja 4 community members. I'm Shakayla Wanyama, music minister at Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And today is my last Sunday with you all. Although the last year and a half has been totally insane and up and down and backwards and sideways and inside out, we have learned and grown together. We have learned about radical community. We have learned about radical inclusion. We have challenged ourselves to be neighbors and family members and siblings of one another in ways we never imagined we may have to. We've confronted a lot of devastating news and challenging times together and celebrated the birth of new babies and all of the wonderful things in life. And we've done it in this bizarre internet way, which means that I haven't met most of you in person. But I want to take the moment to say thank you. Thank you for the lessons in interdependence, in working and growing together. Thank you to my Baja 4 colleagues, to the staff, the ministers, the creative minds, the heartful energy of this incredible Baja 4 team. We really did the impossible, and I think we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into when we started this journey together, but I am forever grateful for it. After the onset of the pandemic and the uprisings in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, I decided I needed to come home to Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I have actually been working virtually from here for a number of months now. And as we transition to in-person services, it's time for me to take my leave. So I am taking our lessons of interdependence and community and radical love and inclusion and encouragement and hard times and hope in the most difficult moments. I'm taking all of that with me as I re-enter the community that gave birth to me, not only as a citizen of the world, but also as a musician and artist and educator. So thank you all for this time together. And I have recorded a special set of songs for you today. These are 2 pieces by the composer Elaine Hagenberg with text by Brian Newhouse. And these 2 pieces were written specifically for choirs and singers that had to go silent during the COVID-19 pandemic as it initially set in. Certainly we learned how to make virtual choirs and all of that, but I know you will join me in celebrating whatever form of singing we get to do together. So the first song is, the text is, "Sing, when the song of my heart grows silent, sing to me." And that really represents kind of the isolation of the pandemic's onset and of that confusing and difficult time, and honestly of the time that still continues. The second one, the words say, "When our voices stir the embers, my heart remembers our song again." And that is a sort of rebirth of sorts, of singing, of being together. And gosh, may we all do more of that in person soon.
If the song of my heart falls silent, sing. If the song of my heart falls silent, sing. If the song of my heart falls silent, sing. If the song of my heart falls silent, if the song of my heart falls
Be well, and thank you.
Thank you, Shakayla, for that beautiful piece and all the gifts you have offered us the past 18 months. We are going to miss you. I want to say something that might shock some of you. I do not believe that Unitarian Universalists should be a people of welcome. I don't. I believe that we should strive to be a people of welcoming. Let me explain. Last week, Reverend Samantha asked us all the question, what is worth doing in a floodplain? And I don't know about you, but that question really stuck with me, and I mulled it over. It sparked my imagination. In the floodplains of climate chaos, and this particular week, this is making me think of our cousins and siblings in Louisiana and Mississippi, and those in the western states where fires are burning. What are we to do? What is worth doing in the floodplains of the COVID pandemic, which is becoming endemic? What is worth doing in the floodplains of poverty and rising income inequality and looming evictions? What is worth doing in the floodplains of racism and heteronormativity and misogyny? What is worth doing in the floodplains of our country's war industrial complex and all the lives that affects here and abroad? In all of these floodplains, what is worth doing? I sat with this question for a while. And I came to a core piece of my own theology, which is inspired by Martin Buber's idea of I, thou. Some of you might have heard me or someone else preach on it before. It's this idea that the divine God, the divine, is not within me, and they're not within you, and they're not necessarily all out there, but they are strongest, at least, in the space in between you and I. Strongest in the space between people, strongest, if you will, in the relationship. And for me, that cultivating that divine energy that resides in between us in the relationships, that is worth doing in a floodplain. Because relationships, divine energy that resides in between us, that can't be washed away by water. That can only be baptized by the flood. And here is where we return to my initial statement. We are not a people of welcome. We are a people of welcoming, or at least we ought to strive to be. There is a story I have heard hundreds of times in our congregations by hundreds of different voices. It is nearly the same every time. If you've been around any length of time, I'm sure you've heard it or told it yourself. The story is pretty short. I just walked in the doors and I was home, talking about coming into our Unitarian Universalist congregations. Sometimes that welcome was because of what they saw, children being included through a time for all ages or another point in worship. Sometimes that welcome was what they heard, an explicit welcome of LGBTQIA plus people, like in Reverend Fred Small's song, Everything Possible, we heard earlier. Sometimes that welcome was what they felt among people who think like me, we say. Unitarian Universalism has been a welcome home for some people. For other people, not so much. Here is a hard truth that I'm sure many of you know or have heard. There are some Unitarian Universalists across the country, maybe even you, who are not looking forward to coming back to in-person church once that's allowed. They aren't looking forward to coming back to in-person church because our congregations don't yet welcome all of who they are. Some are dreading the return to in-person church because online church has been more or less free from the micro and macro aggressions that they experienced every week in our congregations. For some people of color, some trans folks, some people with disabilities, not all, you'll notice I say, for some, online church has been more representative of who we say we are than in-person church ever was. The fact that their bodies did not have to be physically present in a mostly white, mostly upper middle class, highly educated cultural space has made our worship and activities more welcoming to some. And this is how I know that we are not a people of welcome, not yet. But we could, if we try, become a people of welcoming. We could, and I think must, shift the story of who we are from being a people of welcoming towards becoming a people, Jody, I'm gonna start at we could. This is right after, if we try, become people of welcoming. We could, and I believe must, shift the story of who we are from being a people of welcome towards becoming a people of welcoming. Now, you might think the difference is subtle, just an ing, right? How much of a difference can that make? But the difference to me makes clear that the type of welcome we are talking about is a verb, an activity, dynamic and changing and definitely not complete, maybe not ever done. How might we really live out the story of becoming a people of welcoming? Unitarian Universalist religious educator C.B. Beale came up with a practice of preemptive radical inclusion, which I think could be a good framework. Preemptive radical inclusion, what does that mean? Let's let CB explain that to us. I'll be quoting from them directly here. The practice is preemptive, and notice it's a practice, right? The practice is preemptive because, quote, leaders are responsible for figuring out in advance how to involve everyone in the experience or meeting or activity, and we make those changes without attendees having to make their needs known because we have already planned for them. Preemptive. The practice is radical because if those in charge are doing this correctly, the created experience won't be the expected experience. It will be dramatically, radically different. Radical. And the practice is inclusive because it centers the needs and experiences of marginalized people. And it is not attached to the way we always do things because it knows that equity is more important. Inclusion. Preemptive, radical inclusion. It's installing a ramp to the chancel, to the stage, before someone who needs to use the pulpit and uses wheels needs it. It's sharing your pronouns in meetings before there is an out trans person in your congregation. It's creating a culture at social hour where people ask, how do you spend your time? Rather than, what do you do for work? Or where did you go to school? Right? These are just some ideas, and I know you have more. I know you have more because I know that you do not want us to be a people of welcome, static, already done. I know that you want us to be a people of welcoming. And I know that without an intentional commitment to learning and accountability processes for that learning we have to do to be welcoming, we humans can forget that we are not yet done. Last week, Reverend Samantha reminded us that our hope is not in the rescue. Our hope is in the baptism. Those of us who found our way to Unitarian Universalism have already felt the baptism that you are whole and holy just as you are and as you are becoming. If we can embrace the practice of preemptive radical inclusion in our online and eventually in our in-person spaces, we can expand that baptism far beyond our own existing communities. We can, through our actions, let others know that they are whole and holy. We have already planned for them. They are welcome just as they are and as they are becoming. We can invite others into the work of preemptive, radical inclusion. We can admit all along the way that we are not done yet. Unitarian Universalist layperson and the leader of Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, or otherwise known as BLUE, Dr. Takia Amin, says it best. May we be the people of come as you are, but do not stay as you have been. Friends, may we not stay as we have been. And leaning into those lyrics from Ma Muse sung by the Thrive Choir earlier, may we be known by the company who tend the fires of community. May we be known by the ones who sow and reap change from deep within the earth. May we learn to thrive. May we help each other thrive. May we lead in love always. And may we move forward together towards becoming a people of welcoming.
Let this be a house of freedom, guardian of dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences here shall not divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of prophecy. May vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of tender dreams. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace.
These words of closing come from Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Hush, somebody's calling your name. Can you hear it? Calling you to a past not quite forgotten. Calling us to a future not fully imagined. Hush, hush, somebody's calling our name. What shall we do?